when I first attended the University of California for my BFA, way back when? In 1969, I was an aspiring painter. And before I left there, I got introduced to performance art, which is a way of telling stories, in a contemporary way. And I tell people, well, I wasn't that good of a painter because I could never speak to the things that I really felt in here, And then I look at this and think, and this other word thinking, well, they are, So, in addition to being an artist, which I practiced at 40-some years, that when I graduated from college, and I'm going to talk a lot about, not a lot of college, but point to college because it's been such a vital part of my being, not just as a student, but as an academic counselor for 25 years. And that paid for my habit. I didn't have to rely on sales. I could take risks. I could holler at the moon. I could do all these things and not worry about it because, damn, I had a steady paycheck. And I walked away from being a counselor 6 years ago now, and it's great. And looking back, I don't know how I was able to hold 2 jobs, but it was vital to me. But what was really great about being in academia was because I was a trained teacher. I never got my credential, we almost did. But what I learned during my student teaching at Sherman Indian High School in Riverside is about the ability to speak, and how to speak, how to show motivating things for people, to listen. And later on, I was in a gray area of my life, and I got recruited for a master's program in counseling from San Diego State, a 1-year program. And I realized, whoa, okay, because they're not hiring anybody, or not that many, and it still continues today, that the art department is the smallest department on a high school campus, which is where I was headed. That I needed to, be able to offer other things than that or be more marketable. And I thought I could be a counselor. And during that tenure of working on that degree, I learned something else, which I think made me a better artist, if not, a better person in some ways, though that's debatable, that I had learned to speak, but now I was being taught how to learn to listen. And I think it shows in my work, those things. So academia has been a big part of me, just not as a job, but working with young students. I was also the Indian counselor at Palmer College. I was also the art counselor, just something that, they gravitated to. But I worked with all students, and they would come to me and say, Mr. Lynn, I want to go to Fresno State. How do I get there? That was my role. Besides other things, or I don't know what the hell I want to do with my life. Can you help me? So it was a great challenge and a great thing. So let me go into the work. About things just happening, things you see or things that you react to. I was invited to submit an art piece for a commemoration of Father Juniper Serra. And, we know this man. He was the icon. He was the Hitler of the annihilation of the California Indian people. He was the architect. He was the general. And my golly, they were going to make him a saint. And I was appalled, and bent out of shape, as they say. But they asked me to do something for this show, along with a handful of other artists, and I did. But I wanted to re-strategize because maybe in the old days I would have done something really in your face. I would have been confronted because, I knew how to do other things, but that kind of worked well. And I was working through it, and then I realized, that is too easy. That is a little too easy. And the way that I present my craft, there's so much more innovative ways to speak to that. So I thought about it, and it came to me. It came to me that what people need to know despite that, we're here. That we are survivors. Despite taking our lands, our names, our beliefs, our songs, our ways, that we're still here. How can I speak to that? And I thought about it, and I thought about family. And it started falling together. So I'll tell you about this. Usually I say it at the end of the film, but I started thinking about this, and I thought of ways to do it. And ironically, photos came into play, because even though, we're the most documented, inspected, not exactly respected, documented people of the world, all those photos you see post early contact and then some, early hundreds, they took our soul. It wasn't so much they took our shadow or whatever, there was that saying, but they took our soul because they took our voice. How many photos do you see of natives at the turn of the century smiling? And it wasn't just because we had nothing to smile about, because that was one of the worst periods of our being on earth. Our people were starving. If it wasn't for reservations, then we would be nothing. We would just be floaters. We wouldn't have a tribe, we wouldn't have a name. And there's contradiction there, because they gave us a number, gave us some land, put us way out of sight. But it came back to bite them in the ass, and we're here.